S праздником. You didn't celebrate yesterday? Ah, okay. Good morning and welcome to the Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation. Anybody have plans for an ark? You notice I got my high water pants on. Anyway, announcements for this week. Taco Tuesday on Tuesdays. It's been very interesting the last few weeks. We've had some really fun conversations. Get to learn about things about each other that you normally wouldn't know. So it's fun. Please join in. You get the link, it comes. Please read your announcements that come every week. All the good stuff's in there. You may have to scroll down a bit. There is a new directory available. I hope everybody got it. It went out email, but it has current members, new members. It's important. Next week is our poetry potluck service. Will be interesting because I've never been to one. So, and then, 2 weeks?
2 weeks, 22nd. Yeah, it got changed.
Oh,
Yeah, next week is Martin Luther King.
okay.
Martin Luther King Sunday next.
Because I'm just looking at the, next week is the class. On the 22nd is our congregational meeting, important. There will be a vote or two concerning some of our land use and moving onward with restructuring the congregation. That information should be resent to everybody so you have some idea of what we're voting on. And I guess I will turn it over to Reverend Maggie.
Yeah, we had a change in the schedule for the potluck several times. First, we had it on Christmas, then we moved it to the 15th, and it's on the 22nd, so 2 weeks from today. Lots of time to write some good poetry, folks. So, sorry about the mask. But good morning and Happy New Year, everyone. It is so good to be back here together with all of you. We open our service by a ringing of the bowl. We ring the bowl 3 times. Once for those who came before. Once for those of us here and now, here in the sanctuary, and we also welcome those who are joining us in our Zoom sanctuary. We have 11 households, 12 households connected, and once for those who will come. All we have coming toward us in this beautiful new year ahead. I invite you to sing with me. Open your hymnals to number 188 as we sing a song that's fairly familiar to us. Come, come, whoever you are, number 188. Stand as you're comfortable. Oh, twice through.
Come, come, wherever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is the caravan of despair. Come, come again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours
wonderful. We can sing that by heart. I'd like everyone to join me in shutting our devices off, please. And as we light our chalice, I invite Juliana Lytle up to light the flame as we read the words by Lisa Doge. It's called Chalice Lighting for a New Year. For the new year, just days old, beginning today, always beginning, we light our chalice, symbol of our faith, in astonished praise for beginnings. Beginnings that emerge out of endings, that appear amidst continuity, that become visible in hindsight. We light our chalice, symbol of perseverance, in astonished thanksgiving for all of the times and all of the ways that we've begun anew together. We light our chalice, symbol of our faith, perseverance, and hope, in astonished praise, thanksgiving, and irrepressible hope. Let's sing together, Spirit of Life, hymn number 123. The lyrics will be on the screen, but we will sing from our hearts. You can sit if you're more comfortable doing so, but rise as the Spirit moves you. Spirit of Life. And keep standing. Let's speak our covenant together. It is in your order of service, but we will have it on the screen as well. Here we go. We affirm that love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve the world in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. And thus do we covenant with each other. Thank you. Please be seated. Our time for all ages, our wisdom tale, will be read by our DLRE, Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration, Robert Tidwell. It's called Meeting the New Year, and it's written by Tim Atkins. And it begins with a quote by Maldasa Sharma that says, "When hardships come into your life, it breaks you for a while. But when it's over and done with, you evolve into a new person."
New Year's is my favorite holiday, my favorite winter holiday. Since 2015, I've engaged in a ritual of reflection and intention that's dear to me, choosing a word to serve as my grounding for the upcoming year. I begin this practice by reflecting on my words of prior years: joy, embrace, explore, delight, authenticity, roots, blossom. Over time, my memories become infused with the spirit and the vibe of the word I chose for that year. For example, last year I chose blossom as my word for 2022, and over the past year, I can recall thinking of how I was blossoming into a more fully realized version of myself. The next part of my ritual involves taking stock of different threads happening in my life and thinking about my hopes for the upcoming year. I narrow them down into one feeling and try to put a word to that feeling. One of the things most on my mind, and something that I love most about Unitarian Universalism, is our denominational commitment to periodically assessing our beliefs and discerning whether they should evolve. Right now, we're in the midst of a bylaw-mandated process of determining if we want to make changes to Article 2, commonly known as the Principles and Sources. I'm proud to belong to a living religious tradition that embraces evolution both scientifically and spiritually. But deeply personal elements inform my ritual too. In December, my sole surviving grandparent, my maternal grandmother, passed away. She was the last member of that generation in my family, and with her passing, I've evolved to a new stage of life. It feels right for me to meditate on evolution this upcoming year. Evolve is clearly my word for 2023. Change can be scary, but evolution is exciting. How am I going to evolve to meet the challenges of this new era we live in? What's the word you want to reflect on during the upcoming year? What's the one word you want to remember your next year by? The dawning of the new year is the dawning of a new chance, a chance to right the wrongs we know we committed, to recommit to the life we choose to live, to reflect. It's a chance to start the next chapter in our story. May we have wisdom as we reflect on our truths and our true intentions. May we have the strength as we examine our lives with honesty and hope. May we have courage as we dare to dream. Thank you. And we don't have our chalice. I don't know where it's at. But
You know what, I bet it got put away.
oh, it probably did. But we can be sung out and awesome. We were looking for it this morning. Thank you. So yeah. So if Jarius can put the song on the screen, we can be sung out to our classes.
Have a great time. Yeah, we don't want you to go. Our offering message this morning opens with these words that are borrowed from Reverend Kathleen McTeague in reading number 706. May the light around us guide our steps and hold us to the best and most righteous in all that we seek. May the dark around us nurture our dreams and give us rest so that we may give ourselves to the work of the world. And may we remember the weaving of both light and shadow in this great dance in which we move together. As the big-hearted caretakers of this community, it's a part of our spiritual practice to give from our hearts to maintain its physical and spiritual well-being. But thank you for each and every kind and generous donation given in many ways throughout these days that we share. Our good stewardship reflects our rootedness in our UU faith and our growth that brings healing to one another and to the world. I invite those who are here in the sanctuary to bring forward your offerings and gifts of non-perishable donations for the Inland Valley Hope Partners Beta Center in the food basket here. Those joining us online are welcome to use the link to donate that way in the chat box that Jarius will put there. Thank you, Jarius. And it is with grateful appreciation that our offerings will now be given and received. Thank you, Lily. That's awesome. For all of us hippies here that love the Beatles, thank you. And I did hear the news today. Oh, boy. And I have, well, I'll be singing that, right? A good earworm. I have a message from Maddie Scully for everybody. She has been moved to a nursing facility. It's called Harvest Park, but she's doing super well. She says, "Say hello to everyone for me. Tell them I'm on the mend." And, sorry, she does voice to text, and sometimes it doesn't go exactly as planned. I'm anxious to return to them, to their loving arms. I'm practicing my hugging for the day that I return to church. Aw, that's sweet. Yeah. Yeah. So this is our joy and concern time. I didn't have anything in the basket from anyone that's here. But there is one amazing event that happened this past week that I know touched most of our lives, if not all, and that's the injury and the recovery of Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin. There was just so much of an outpouring for that young man and his recovery and his family that it goes beyond understanding. And hopefully all of you were with me and everyone else as we locked arms and just expressed our compassion for this young man, 24 years old, who all of those things fell right into perfect synchronization that his heart would stop. And then it's not only started again, but that he is neurologically intact and smiling on the internet now and talking about his experience a little bit. So we think about how those things happen and how some come back and yet some don't. So how do we hold this and find hope in it? I hope that we do and that it's something that we can share in awe. It also opened a conversation on our Taco Tuesday, as Alan referred to. We learned things about people that we may not know. But we started talking about prayer and what that word means to us personally, and sometimes we have to take off a lot of old coats that are attached to words, and sometimes that's really hard to do. But if a prayer can be as simple as an intention, a wish, a spell, trying to speak the language of our people, and just your best wishes that you send to someone, your love, that's a prayer. And yet, a part of that, and right around the edges of that, are those that when they hear that word, they go, oh. And there are people too. And we can hold that as part of who we are. But now as I invite you to enter with me into prayer, let's all just go, sigh. Breathe together. And out. My prayer will end with a time of shared silence, and then Lily will bring us out of that quiet time with the song that we'll sing next, which will be There Is a Love. But we breathe together, a conspiring of sorts, connecting our hearts, our minds, and our very lives, lighting up the web that binds us to all beings in these trying and tender times. We're grateful for this community of love and connection, as these unusual days remind us of how much we really mean to each other. What does it mean to be together with one another? We join our breath to become aware of love more fully and to see beyond what we believe we know toward an awakening, a connection, and growth. May our love shine forth from this place and from the sanctuary of each of our hearts, so that others may know that acceptance, community, and love are the gifts that we bring. With deep gratitude for life and for the chance that we always have to choose love again and always. We connect with the spirit of life we see in each other, with all others. with every living thing, and with the stars. Amen. YouTube clip that will be our reading for today. Jarius will set that up, and then we'll have a beautiful special music by Lily.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
When I was a child, we always waited until the Feast of Epiphany to mark the end of the Christmas holidays. We kept our tree up until then and kept January 6th as a special day to mark the arrival of the three kings who came bearing gifts to the baby Jesus. Our family had a creche, or a manger scene, with all of the plastic statues for each of the characters that were about 4 or 5 inches tall. And to embody the story more deeply, we began Advent by moving the little statues of Mary, Joseph, and the donkey to different spots in the house, each time getting closer and closer to where we had the manger set up, as if they were really on their journey to be counted in Bethlehem. The statue of the child was always magically placed in the manger when we woke up Christmas morning. But the three king statues took a different journey on Epiphany, however. They came from the east, and they were traveling with their camels. We were taught similarly to what our Catholic school lessons told us, skimming over much of the mysticism that is flowing through the original text of the scripture. But let's read just a bit from the New Revised Standard Version of Matthew, chapter 2. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, there were magi, astrologers, from the east, who came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is this child who's been born to become the King of the Jews? For we know this because we've observed his star in the east at its rising and have come to pay him homage." In verse 7, Herod secretly called for the Magi and learned from them the exact time that the star had appeared. Then Herod sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for this child, and when you found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. And then upon entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. And then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Many sources say that the titling of this feast day of Epiphany comes from its marking of the realization or light bulb moment that this child had a special calling. Not only an awakening that we need to take down our tree, But may each of us take just a moment to realize in a new way that we too have a star chart that lit up the sky the day that we arrived. And that leads us through our days. And as our hymn, number 1051 in the Teal hymnal, it's titled We Are, and the words to it tell us, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. In our time together in spiritual community, we build an awareness of that in us. And it reminds us that our true identity, with all of those aspects, calls us to a better way of seeing ourselves. It brings meaning to our lives. That our time together, as we say, either on site or online, opens our lives to be stimulated toward an increased engagement with our own spirits and our own identity as the Spirit of God. But not only for our own souls choose schooling, not only for us to learn, but we also sharpen one another's engagement with the principles that form the scaffolding of our faith. And for the month of January, we're going to continue to connect with our worship theme with the one that the children are using in their RE programs, as we focus together on our fifth principle, which is the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregation and in society at large. And oh, what a brave undertaking that is. Our UU faith is not milquetoast or a rudimentary faith by any stretch, because democracy is very messy, she says with a sigh after Congress's choice for a speaker this week. But democracy is still and always, always, always best. Braiding our use for the democratic process with each person's right of conscience calls and challenges us to honor the spirit of life that is another person, the one we are talking to and living with, and how deeply empowering and motivating it can be to unite and fight with those of a similar conscience. We feel motivated by the nudges of our conscience to take action, to protect another being that's in harm's way, maybe rescuing an animal, perhaps, as we've witnessed through Cain's cupboard, or to offer help to somebody who is in need, is donating food to the Beta Center, or to make changes in our lives that will help to slow the effects of Earth's climate emergency. I think of those of us who have marched together for women's rights or racial justice. It's like a wave of conscience and democracy energizing the entire Earth, and yet at the same time, oh, how very difficult it can be to stand for the right of conscience of somebody who holds an ethical or a moral perspective that is different from or offensive to our own. But yet we must. A right of conscience is only present in a society that respects the autonomy of individual persons. And we must affirm and promote that right of conscience for everyone, even when we strongly disagree. Federal statutes protect the conscience rights of patients, doctors, and other healthcare providers by prohibiting insurance companies that receive federal funds from refusing to cover services based on moral objections or religious beliefs. They also stand, and we must too, to protect those and share an ethic that comes from a very strong moral objection to a societal shift, or a disagreement with a new lifestyle, or unfolding change to a cultural norm that we might celebrate as a positive shift, but others may not. We too must hold tight the reins of our resistance when we're in a relationship with others that we find difficult. But their beliefs and their actions are not harmful. They're just different. It may be that they cling to a perspective because of a trauma that they experienced in their younger days or more recently. Or they hold tight to a theology that was interwoven into their culture so deeply that they've never questioned it before. They certainly won't take the courage or take the steps to investigate changing their theology if they're met with resistance or shame or told that they're incorrect in their thinking. And though we might see their position as oppressive or offensive, we celebrate and we stand to protect their right of conscience to believe as they do and to grow at their own rate and to live according to their own soul's call without rejection or shaming or even a sense of judgment. And it may be that they don't need to change anything. Maybe it's us. Maybe we have to stop a little bit and say, you know what, maybe I'm not 100% right about this. How do we honor what people think when we're offended by what they say? I know that's where I fall short many times, and maybe you do too. That's the cutting edge of my spiritual growth these days, and that's where I have to raise my hand and slowly admit that I struggle to contain my facial expressions of my opinion. I have a close friend, his name is Dan, who has often said to me when we were wrestling with topics, he goes, "Don't look at me with that tone of voice." But I react to fix or explain or too quickly sometimes, too quickly. And I know that I carry the effects of verbal abuse from my past. It comes to the surface more than I'd like. And working on them makes them a little more active and a little more intrusive in my life. But I also feel the tickle of that feathery hope within, the hope that Emily Dickinson so beautifully phrased. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. That hope comes from successful outcomes to conversations that have failed, maybe many, many times in the past. It's a feathery hope that comes when we find a way forward in a relationship with somebody who challenges our capacity to protect the right of conscience for somebody with another opinion, one that we might even despise. But that feathery hope will come and perch in our soul every time we heal a broken bond and open toward love, even when we are immersed in a disagreement with somebody of a different mindset, whether it's ethical or theological, environmental, and yes, even political. But we are Unitarian Universalists, and we are the keepers of this principle, the principle that says we are among those who affirm and promote democracy and the right of conscience for all. And we are the ones with that feathery hope. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. And on the back or inside your order of service, you will see our chalice extinguishing benediction, and I invite Juliana up to extinguish our chalice with the snuffer. She does so well. May we recognize the truth and meaning that in our lives that breaks into every moment. May it guide us in our living every day. May we live at peace with all beings, and may we be makers of peace in our world. Shalom. Amen. And blessed be.